Right.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Live with Marcy and Amy, your heart-centered woman. Today, we have a very powerful show planned for you. As I'm certain that you picked up, even energetically from our title, we'll be talking about Be the Creator, not the pawn. Your sacred rebellion is now. How to create peace as your protest, your empowerment as your anchor, and your presence as your protection during these chaotic times. So, as I said, it's going to be a powerful program. We're so happy to have you with us and so happy that you're committed to really becoming all that you are meant to be, which, of course, is a heart centered woman. So, we're going to start today off. I'd like to just share a quote with you to kind of set the vibrational frequency and the mood, perhaps, of our heart. This one really spoke to me. If you treat me like a captive or a pawn, or if you let anyone else attack me with their pet bird, I will refuse to behave. But it's not because I'm not loyal. Hmm. My guess is it's given you some food for thought. And I just want to follow that up with another one. This is by Sarah Wilson, and it would be so much easier if I could just be a student instead of always a pawn in a bigger game. And I have no illusions. I was no center of the storm. I was no rook or bishop. I was a pawn and nothing more. So today we're going to jump in and talk about, of course, the differences in being a creator or a pawn. And before we do, Amy, I would just love for you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your work, and yeah, and then we'll go from there.
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is Live with Marcy and Amy. We do this monthly show, the third Thursday of every month, where we really bring content for you as a woman to so that you can learn and grow and we can be in community together. I'm Amy Shade. I am the creator of the Radical Embodiment Method. I support women in their life and really to be the creator of their life, which is what we're going to really dive deep into today. Is how do we move from that pawn position into the creator? How we as women learn to really value ourselves in such a heart centered way that we're able to create a loving life. Oftentimes, women are give their power away to others, to anger, to frustration, to unhappiness, to loneliness. And so I support women into shifting that into really feeling grounded in their life and loving in their life. I also want to mention that yes, this show is every Thursday, and then we have a follow-up workshop that we Marcia and I give after the show, which we're going to highlight later on. So, Marcy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you. And I just wanted to make one correction there. Our show is every third Thursday of the month. And yes, always followed by a live workshop. So I'm Marcy Newman. I am the Heart Shift coach and the creator of the Heart Shift process, which is the culmination of over 50 years working professionally in the world of helping people to heal their hearts. My work is always focused on really teaching women how to truly love themselves and what that looks like, what it asks of them, and sometimes even what it demands. The other aspect of that is in cultivating the courage that it takes to create a self love lifestyle, because courage is the fuel that perpetuates creating a lifestyle rather than just having these small moments where we are loving ourselves and making choices that are in alignment with that. We really want to start to live in our heart, live heart-centered lives, and that is a wonderful invitation than to love ourselves, to stay in alignment with it all. So I'm so happy to be here. As Amy said, we have been doing this show now, going on our 4th year, and we're so dedicated to having these conversations to support women, regardless of where you're at in your lives, always based on, where you want to go and how we can support you. And those are always the themes of our discussions and all of the special projects that we do as well. So with that, again, I'd like to welcome everyone, and let's just jump in. What do you say, Ames?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. I'd actually like to start by asking you a question, and this is a very important one, as it's really setting the tone for our entire show.
Uh-oh.
What does it mean to be the creator, not the pawn?
Great question as my camera goes out. Hold on one second. I mean, are we living in this chaotic time or what?
We are, indeed. But we know your words will be just as powerful.
All right. Yes. So what does
Here
it
we
mean to
go.
what does it mean to be the creator and not the pawn? Ultimately, it means that you're not at the mercy of the world, that you are really the architect of your own life. So it's really about understanding your mission in this life as a spiritual being, as a creative being, as someone who has choice. The pawn really doesn't have choice. The pawn is someone who, wakes up and feels like they have no choice in the world. Now, this is an interesting thing because right now, especially, we are in chaotic times. We are in these times of a lot of people being decisive. They are being very divisive. They're being very angry. People are attacking each other. We're in this really ugly space if you look outside of your world, okay? If you look outside of yourself. Our responsibility as creators is to really come home to self and decide that that is not where we want to put our energy. Where we want to put our energy is to our own feeling of safety, our own sense of being secure with our who we are, with our love for others, even if they're have judgment on us, that we are not, really poking the bear, poking that bear, like being antagonistic, which I used to be very good at. So being the creator is really about, I'll give you an example. This morning, oftentimes I wake up in the morning feeling fearful, fearing anxiety, feeling like it's all too much. Like I just want to watch Netflix all day, right? Now, the creator understands that that's normal. And the creator understands that she or I, right, can come home to self, hook up to Mother God, to know that there's something bigger than me, to understand that I am responsible for my thoughts, beliefs, and ideas for the day, and that I can actually shift my own energy into a loving being, someone who's more excited about life, so I can participate in life. The old me, the pawn, would have just felt it and held on to those feelings of anxiety, of fear, of being helpless all day. And then my energy would have gone that way, and I would have made choices from that energy. So being the creator is not about things not happening to you or the world being perfect or your world being perfect. It's about how you navigate these chaotic times, understanding that that's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. That's what universe is asking for. And with that, I'm going to ask Marcy. You often say that we are creating 24/7. If that's the case, how can we ever be a pawn, as you insinuate in the show title, in our show title? Oh, you're muted.
I was just saying, great question also. And it's so important that we recognize, and Amy, you really hit the nail on the head when you were talking about the pawn having no choice. It doesn't mean, however, that the pawn is not creating. We do create 24/7 because we are creators. We cannot help ourselves. However, when you have no awareness that you're a pawn, you allow yourself to be literally moved around the chessboard, right? You're part of someone else's story, whether that is willingly, consciously, willingly, or unwillingly. And so when we really embrace the fact that we are creators, we recognize that, yes, indeed, we can't get away from creating, but we could be creating opportunities to be a pawn. This happens when we don't have a sense of self, when we are not anchored into our heart and not remembering that we are creators. Very often, and I think particularly as women, we've been programmed to acquiesce our power to the patriarchal remedies of life, right? And the patriarchal perspective of life. We've given up our ability to remain in the divine feminine, to hold that energy frequency as the great receivers of the universe and create from what it is that we are receiving. But here's a little caveat. If what you're receiving is dense energy, energy with low frequency, because that's where you have put yourself, that's what you will create from. And then a whole, like domino effect starts. It's where we look at what we've created and say, oh, that must have come from outside of us. That must be the impulse or the impact based on what somebody else is doing. And so we step into this helplessness as well as this victimhood when we do not remind ourselves constantly that we are creators. And what that means also is that we need to be accountable, right? So when we are finding ourselves in these situations that we're not happy with, we must remind ourselves that as a creator, we have the power and the ability to create something new. And what we need to create is a brand new energy trajectory. We need to determine what it is that we want to experience instead. And then we have to align with the energy that has the potential to create that. And this is where your conscious awareness is so essential. I think especially now, Amy was talking about chaos. How we, get rid of that chaos within ourselves is simply by reminding ourselves, not only are we creators, we are divine feminine creators. And so we have a very unique way of creating. And it's one, frankly, that the world is not just in need of, it's desperate for. Desperate for. So, having said that, this is about awakening and about, you've heard Amy and I talk about that radical acceptance. We have to awaken to who we are and awaken to the fact that we are never, ever not creators, even if it appears as if we're a pawn. So, Amy, on that same subject of chaos, how do we create peace when everything around us feels chaotic?
Okay, great. Yes, yeah. There's a couple things that are going on here that to tie into patriarchy, which you introduced right now, which I love
Okay.
because we can't have peace when we're trying as women to fit into this patriarchal model.
No.
it's very painful for us to be in that model of leadership, be in that model of parenting, to be in that model of friendship, to be in that model of love relationships. So this is where our peace is really agitated because we're trying to do something. We have these expectations around us and we're trying to fit into those expectations that really don't belong to us, right? And so we never have a sense of peace because it's not our natural state of being. And we are trying to contort ourselves to fit into this patriarchal model. And it's very painful for many of us who are very heart-centered and who want to be loving and who want to be creating and who want to have this openness about themselves. And that is not really allowed. So peace is not passive. Peace is active. Peace is an act of rebellion. Okay? Because it's interesting, because people think that it's failure. This is an interesting concept. And we often feel like if we choose peace over being right, we're somehow less than, we're not powerful. When actually, the better position, the most powerful position you can be in is to choose peace. Now, even saying that, like bringing peace as a main value, lowers the velocity of your life, of the chaos. It lowers it because it's like, okay, what is my goal today? My goal is to really be peaceful throughout my day, even with people who want to agitate me, right? And peace is a choice, and peace is a demand. What was one of my demands in my old relationship with my fiance who passed away? That was a demand. I need a peaceful life. How are we going to make this happen? Right? And so I will say that it takes a bit of getting used to this idea of peace, because that is not what has been modeled for us our whole life. What's been modeled for us is that we're supposed to fight for our right to do something. We're supposed to fight against each other to prove a point. We're supposed to battle each other with words, right? And have this tug of war. And like somehow there's some sort of like, I'm the winner. I'm triumphant. They don't know anything. I'm better than them, right? All of this is now being 10x. So it used to just be in the home. Now it's like 10x out into the world. And so we, as heart-centered people, must realize it's not worth it, that our peace has more power than our conflict. So Marcy, is rebellion necessary? We're talking about rebellion. Is rebellion necessary for each of us, or are we pushed into rebellion because we are oppressed? How has that shown up in your life?
Interesting question. I just want to make a comment. You were talking about the chaos, right? And how we get caught up into it. And there's this phenomenon also where we become actually addicted to the drama, become addicted to, and so the chaos just draws us in because it feeds our addiction. It feeds our need to be on hyper alert, our need to be in fight or flight all the time, our need for that adrenaline kick. And also, this is a phenomenon that I've witnessed, and I'd love, to hear from you about this, maybe later on, Ames, but I notice that when there's a chaotic situation, very often people use that situation to give up their integrity.
Oh,
A
yeah.
perfect example of this is like, when the riots were happening in LA a couple years ago and you saw all the looting, that was taking place in the stores. And so we need to realize chaos can call you to one of two areas. It can call you into a place where you say, I'm not going there. My peace is the most essential part of my being. Or we actually do move into this place where we are giving up our integrity in order to stay in chaos. And so, having said that, it's part of this rebellion, the rebellion that must take place is to follow what the ego would like you to do in times of chaos. It wants you to feed on that energy and create the addiction. And so that rebellion that must take place is a rebellion where you start to choose your divinity over your humanity. Your humanity is governed by the ego. That's just what it is. We just have to accept that. But your divinity is not governed. Your divinity is, it is your true essence. And so when we come into it, we are choosing ourselves as divine beings, which guess what that does? We automatically align with the creator aspect of ourselves on a conscious level. So, what happens is, as we go through this internal rebellion, we are deciding how do we want to live our lives? What is it we're choosing to experience? And what are we choosing to create from? The two energies are going to create completely different experiences, but also completely different worlds. They will mold the lens that you look through. And so it will be perpetuated. Now, the one thing that we know is that chaos, as it breeds more and more chaos, it becomes more and more destructive. It has to, because that's its nature. What, of course, rises up from within that chaos is something new that's being created. And guess what that is? It's your rebellion. It's your choice saying, no, no, I don't want this anymore. Something different has to happen. I want something more. And so chaos sometimes, if it's drawing us into it and in our human weakness, we allow ourselves to be taken over by it, we will feed the chaos. However, chaos can also be like the pressure, on a diamond. It creates this brilliance. And so we have to decide as creators where we are going to put our energy. And so an example of that is we can look at what's going on in the world and we can say, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, right? We'll never survive this. Humanity is at its brink. We'll all be lost. Or we can come from this attitude, and this is very rebellious to come from this place where we say, all right, I know something better is going to come out of this. I know that in the midst of all this chaos, something else is happening. We are becoming, if we will follow that call, there will be energy that is released through all the chaos that we can then use. And what we're looking for now is to create a brand new earth, aren't we? A new way of being, a new way of doing. And so the one thing about chaos is that eventually it's spent. It just, when we step away in our rebellion to step out of it, it loses its fuel. So is this necessary for each and every one of us? Yes, 100%. Because our rebellion is always in determining that we want something different than the status quo. or from what it appears to be, or what has not yet come into existence, but is being created through our decision to create something different for ourselves and, of course, for the highest good of all. So, yeah, rebellion, absolutely. It's natural and normal for each and every one of us as we are coming into ourselves and recognizing our own power, because we must let go of anything that has control over us. We can't bear it. And it was sort of indicated with the quote that I shared with you in the very beginning. So, with that, Ames, I want to ask you, when everything feels heavy or uncertain, why is it important to anchor back into our presence for our protection?
Yes, this is very important because entering into that chaotic situation or enrolling ourselves in the chaos of the world, it gives us this temporary sense of power on some level, of like we have somewhere to put our thoughts. We have something to complain about. We have something to be, to talk about. We have something to really put our focus on. All of these things that we really can't control, by the way, which then takes us out of ourselves as the creator. So it is something that keeps us from really self-reflecting and going inside, because we're so busy with all of the chaos. We're so busy over here thinking about it, talking about it, waking up with it, dreaming about it. We're like, but all of that energy needs to be put back into us, which is the creator. So presence does that.
That's right.
When you are bring presence back into your life, those things are not important. What's important is you. So being present in your life, whether you are walking into a board meeting, whether you are walking into a party, whether you are on a date with someone, whether you're at home by yourself, right? Bring awareness to this present moment. That means being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your body, how you're feeling, being aware of your impulses, right? What are your impulses? What do you really want to do right now? And being present and aware of these things brings you back into your body, which is embodiment, brings you back into your body. And now I'm sitting in this chair with you guys, right? And I'm aware of my surroundings. And I now could put myself as a creator in my body, in my mind, a sense of safety, a sense of control about like what I can and cannot do in my room right now. And so coming back and bringing presence back into your life, meaning, okay, all this crazy stuff is going out there, right? I'm going to stay present with my thoughts and beliefs in myself. And even in my embodiment, by feeling this chair, sitting in this chair, feeling this pen, understanding I'm going to stay present with this pen, right? And what happens is when you do that, your mind comes back to reality. Your body comes back to like peace. Because, and this is the other thing, is we are so used to spinning out of control, having our adrenaline running 24/7, that we don't even realize what's happening. And presence brings you back into your body, like, whoa, why is my breath like going so fast and my heart is beating so fast? So presence is important to bring you back to your mind, to bring you back to your body, to bring you back to what's actually happening with your thoughts and beliefs. And, it's interesting because when you're actually present, you're like, huh, you start realizing like, oh, that person is saying something that is trying to hurt me. And I'm going to choose peace around this and I'm going to walk away instead of someone saying something to you and you go off on them, right? So being present is not about things not being chaotic or things are not happening. It's you being aware that it's happening. So, taking the deep breaths in, deciding to stay with yourself, to be the observer a lot of times, instead of just going in there and like, taking over the whole room. Being the observer of self and others is so important to presence, to being present. And this is very important in your transformation because when you become aware of what's happening around you is such a huge, huge step. Instead of things happening to you as the pawn, you become the creator as the decision maker, as the person who makes choices. You're not trying to change anything because what's happening is happening, but you are understanding, you're present with it. So being present for me was a huge shift out of my tendency to be a little snippy, to have a little bit of a problem, which as a heart-centered woman hurts. You don't want to do that. So,
Yeah,
yeah, but
for sure.
all right, Marcy, you ready?
I am, but I was
Yes.
thinking you were talking about awareness, and I'm
Good.
wondering this would be a good time for us to tell our audience about the workshop coming up and give them an opportunity to sign up for it. So can you share your screen and show everyone what's there?
Oh yeah, this is, every month we do a follow-up workshop, which um Marcy and I do a live workshop, and then of course, you have access to the replay, and then you have access to some bonuses.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't been on one of our workshops, it's really truly transformational because it's an experience. You go through it with us, and so I think this is important right now for us because again, the amount of chaos we are getting hit with has like tenfold. I mean, it's just so prevalent now. And people of like my generation, we're not used to this type of attack on our sensibilities and our peace, you know. So even if you feel drained, right, or paralyzed, this workshop is for you. Even if you keep scrolling for answers but end up more disconnected than ever, meaning like you're trying to figure things out but you're more disconnected. Um, even if even if you feel like the outsider right now, this is the perfect time to really break the cycle. This 90-minute workshop, where we will, as I say, Marcy and I, this is not a PDF situation. This is an experiential situation that you can return to as needed because you get the replay. So you're going to really anchor into your inner knowing. You're going to transform your energy into creative power. Redefine power not as control or force, but as clarity, compassion, and conscious creations. And many of us are feeling like we can't create. We're feeling overwhelmed. And then, of course, you get these beautiful bonuses and unlimited access to the replay of this show. And you get the Forgiveness Online course by Marcy Newman and the Radiant Reflection Meditations for Heart-Centered Women from me, and the workshop. And as I said, you can't make it live. You can still get the replay. This we do for $47 this will be October 30th. And our last workshop it was so beautiful, and Marcy and I bring our very best to these workshops. her knowledge of heart shifting and my knowledge of embodiment. We take through, these exercises.
Yep.
So go ahead. The link is in the chat and you can just click on it and sign up. Marcy, do you want to add anything?
I do. And that is that being with us live is invaluable. You can ask questions in real time. And the other thing is energetically, our our workshops are to raise your vibrational frequency. You are a different person when you leave our workshops because and this, we're told this over and over and over again, we will elevate you. It is our intention. And of course, provide you with tools, as Amy said, to use on an everyday basis to maintain that frequency and even raise it higher still. So that's the intention. And so you have full access, live access for 90 minutes. And we jam pack that 90 minutes with as much as we possibly can because it's our intention to support you in every way possible. So please join us. And I think this month it's over $400 worth of bonuses and the workshop combined. And yeah, it's a real bargain at $47. So, yeah, let's keep going. Let's keep talking about this because it's so important that we really fill our hearts so that it can
Yeah.
remind our minds who we are and what we're meant to do in this world.
So Marcy, I'm going to ask you, is it ever really possible to experience peace in this world that is constantly filled with chaos? That's number one. Is that what you mean by being present in is our protection?
Well, I think you really spoke, at length about peace and, how essential it is and how to create it. But what I want to really drive home is that peace is a choice. The energy of peace is its own frequency, and it rides the frequency wave with love. So when you are choosing peace, you're actually coming back into your true essence. And there is no other aspect of life that is comparable than when you're aligned with your authentic being. And so, is it possible to experience peace? Yes. But you must choose it and then you must reprogram yourself. We've been talking about being addicted to the chaos and the drama. You have to reprogram yourself to always seek out peace. And what does that look like? Well, I can give you an example. I'm having this issue, right, with somebody. And Amy, you used the term before, like poking the bear. Oh my Lord, she keeps poking the bear, poking the bear, poking the bear. And I can feel, the ego as it comes in and it wants to literally rob me of my peace. And so there are moments where I may succumb and I'll, feel badly about myself or what did I do to deserve this? Or what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? I'm unworthy. I'm unlovable. Why doesn't that person respect me? Or, all of that stuff. But lurking behind that is my higher self, just sort of there calmly knitting away and saying, come here, Marcy. Come on over here, sweetheart. Come and sit next to me. Hold the yarn. Come on. We're going to weave. We're going to knit ourselves back into peace. And I'm telling you, that's exactly how it happens. I have to choose to sit next to peace. I have to choose to breathe the same breath that it breathes. I have to choose to come back into focus. And I use those knitting needles, knitting away, holding the yarn, feeling it, because you are creating a brand new tapestry, you might say, of energy. And so this is what we do, and we must do it because otherwise we abdicate our power and we will forget in this fog, because that's what fear does. It creates a fog of confusion. We're going to forget that we are creators and we don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay in the disruption. We can experience peace. And it almost doesn't matter what's happening around us. Yes, is it easy to get distracted? Yes, of course it is. But even in the distraction, there is a call for you to come back to peace. I remember when I lived in New York, we had this wonderful group of women that would meet, and we called it kitchen table wisdom. And we would just sit around the kitchen table and we would just talk about all the different spiritual, laws and perspectives and things that were happening. And there was this wonderful woman who was so much older than we at the time. And she would always share with us as we were, talking about world events or something, about how she would read the newspaper to practice being able to read it and stay in her peace. She would practice. And I'll tell you right now, there are times I do the same thing. I'll just use that situation. Can I maintain my peace? If I get knocked out, can I come back? And I keep reminding myself what it is, because it doesn't mean that you're removing your awareness of what is happening. You're still aware, but you're still choosing peace. You're allowing yourself to have a more neutral observer's view of it, and that willingness to allow it to unfold, because we know chaos eventually is going to fizzle out. What will grow from the midst of all that is something different. It is what we actually want instead. So we feed that with peace. And as far as protection is concerned, it's the only protection. There is no other protection. You must be in your heart. If you're allowing yourself to get played like the pawn in the chaos, you will lose yourself and you will remain in that victimhood and disempowered at every stage. So with that, Amy, I'd like to ask you, because I know many women that you work with actually feel powerless. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. What is the hardest part about stepping out of the pawn energy?
Yes, thank you. I think that one is a good follow-up to what you're saying, because
Okay.
what you're saying is so spot on, that we must choose. We must have awareness. We must have these internal conversations with self. No one else around this, but with self. Like, okay, I'm feeling you're present. I'm feeling this way. I want to do this. I want to fight back. I want to enter into this chaos. You're becoming aware of these impulses. You are becoming aware that you have a heightened sense of fear and anxiety. You're becoming aware that, oh my God, you either want to run or you want to attack, right? And then you have these internal conversations about making a choice. Okay. This is all spot on. This is like the process. This is not about perfection. Like, I never feel anger.
Right.
Like this is not about that. This is about when it's happening, when things are coming into our realm, because we're living a human existence. We have a human, we're living on a human plane. We have human problems. We got bills to pay. We got kids. We got, so it's not about that. What it's about is being present to how you are interacting with this world, how you are responding to this world. This is it. Now, why is that so difficult? Why is that so hard, right? Because it's so you guys, we have to like, and I had this teaching this week. You have to have, you have this old identity of the pawn, and then you have this new identity that you desire of the creator, right? And in between is the journey, right? And we are so used to being in the pawn energy. And that's where oftentimes we get our value is in the pawn energy. And oftentimes we don't feel worthy enough in that pawn energy to really make choices, good choices for ourselves that makes us more of a creator. Now, everything that we've done so far up to this life has been, if you're in that pawn energy, in that pawn energy. So the new life of the creator is uncertain. We're not exactly sure what that means. And many of us in that pawn energy are the people pleasers, are the ones who give up their life for everybody else, are the ones who feel helpless in life, are the ones who feel like, I don't receive anything from anyone. Everyone just takes from me, right? And so what does that mean? That means we have to switch to creator, which is the space in between, which is the journey. Okay. Now, oftentimes, as the people pleaser, you might feel like you're not going to be nice as a creator. You're going to be a mean person as a creator. And maybe you feel like, as the creator, people are going to leave you. So, what happens is we start going back and forth to our desire and then back into our position of the pawn. We keep going back and forth, then back and forth, which is a good sign, because maybe we used to just stay in that pawn energy and that was enough. But now, like, even you're here today, that means you're going towards the creative, towards that energy. But it's, sorry, who am I going? I get excited. You know, I'm a dancer, so everything moves. So what happens is like, that's the hard part. The hardest part is that we're letting go of an old identity. And our ego, our sense of safety, our sense of comfort gets challenged. And our ego wants us to stay there. And so this is why it's very difficult for many to step out of that energy, because the energy of the creator is empowered. It is about making choices. It is about standing up for yourself. It is about holding your own energy and understanding that you belong here because you are a spiritual being. You don't have to make any, you don't have to earn anything. You're already worthy. In the old pawn energy, you're unworthy, and therefore you have to earn, you have to earn, you have to earn. You have to keep doing and giving. And so even that shift into empowerment as I am enough often feels selfish. Often feels like I'm going to be mean. I have to be mean to people because I have to put down boundaries. I have to say no. I have to say, no, I'm going to go do what I want to do. And people find that to be very difficult and rude. So give yourself a break. Give yourself some compassion. Understand the pawn and the creator. There's something in between. That's the journey. And that every step you take towards the creator, the more you practice, the more you practice, the more you stand up for yourself, the closer you get to your desire. It's not a one-off. It's not a one-off, people. It is a continuum of investment in yourself, to show up for yourself, and to even, I would say, prove to yourself that you are worthy and that you are standing up for yourself. Because as the pawn, you're not standing up for yourself. And there's something about being on your own side, that when you are on your own side, you are indestructible on many levels. You are so ingrained in your knowing that you have good intentions, you're a good person, you are you're a peaceful person, you are a loving person, and that you're on your own side. Even as people are coming down on you, you're not giving in. You're saying, no, no, I don't want to participate with this. This is not who I want to be. Being on your own side is very important as a creator. Very important. All right, Marcy. Number 4 or number 5? If we are over there, if we are to follow God's word or teachings, why would we ever rebel against those teachings? And how could rebelling against God be sacred?
This is a very interesting question, and you might think that this has little to do with what we're discussing. But in order for us to radically accept that we are creators, we must also accept that perhaps the conception that we have, or the concept that we might have of God, is a bit distorted. And that's the reason I bring this up, is because many people believe that the God that we are speaking of is outside of us. Okay? In order for us to accept that we are creators, we have to accept that we are aligning with the consciousness of the Mother God, the divine feminine within us. So they're two completely different things. And it's a huge jump for some people. And yet it's so necessary, because we are never rebelling against God. We are aligning with the truth of that God within us. And this is where Amy said, sometimes, this work can be construed as being selfish and all of that. That's a distortion. And it's part of the programming that we've received. It is where you are being accused of being all full of yourself. We're meant to be all full of ourselves. We're meant to be connected to that power source within us, and then to recognize we are indestructible when we are connected to that. We are not ever rebelling, like I said, against the consciousness of God. We are rebelling against nothing. We are rebelling because we are letting go of distorted beliefs, childish beliefs, and beliefs that we've been programmed with that are meant to keep us small and keep us separate from who we really are. So part of this also, and I know how hard I have these discussions over and over with women, how hard it is to accept that we are this articulation of the consciousness of God within us, right? So when we can finally accept that, we come to this place where we understand that if there is rebellion, it's rebellion against untruths. It's rebellion against beliefs that have led us astray. We are rebelling against the parts of us that have remained separate and remained inaccessible to us. But we are never rebelling against the God within us, the love within us, the light within us, the empowerment that is within us. We are instead finally accepting that we are creators. And so everything that we want and need in order to fulfill that role in this world is already within us. And it's we who must access it. And we cannot access it if we continue to see ourselves as victims, as powerless, as unworthy, not valuable, not lovable, all of those things. So this is really a call for us to step up to the plate for ourselves and for that source energy within us so that we can be a true reflection of it, a true expression of it.
And I want to say something about that
Sure.
because when you move into that position, people are actually going to attack you
Yes.
because they're looking for the conflict. They're looking for the chaos. And when you are in this position of peace and love and understanding that there's only so much you can control and you're present in your life, you understand that you're not going to enter into that chaotic existence. You're going to keep on your own side. You're going to keep going forward. And people are going to condemn you. I was just condemned on the phone the other day. I was like, she can condemn me all she wants, but I will not enter into this.
Yeah.
And her sense of ego and her sense of being right was ugly for me to witness.
Sure.
It was not something I wanted to aspire to. Like, and yet I used to be that. I want to say that. I used to be just like her until you switch, you learn, you grow into this creator energy and understand that that leads nowhere. And she's walking away with a sense of strength and looking at me as if I'm weak. I allow it, whatever you want to think. That's not my business. My business is me. We are our own business. We have to save ourselves, preserve our power, be happy and joyful in this life. And don't let anyone take that away from you. Do not let anyone take that away from you.
That's right. And understanding how essential this is probably one of the most important focuses that we need to take on. And it's something, I don't know, for myself, I come back to it over and over and over again. I have to remind myself. And Amy, you know, what you had said as you were listening to this person on the phone, you were reminding yourself that used to be me. That's a fantastic way to remind ourselves that we're no longer there. But to do so without pity, to do so without sympathy is essential. We must do it from a place of compassion. Compassion is not pity. Compassion is not sympathy. It is an energy that bridges from where we are to where we want to be. And we want to be in our godliness.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're not looking down on anyone. We are simply remembering that I used to be there, and I trust that her journey will take her where she needs to be as well. It's out of our hands, and we don't need to do anything about that. You know, I always say that's a sword I don't have to wield. Thank God. You know,
Yes.
the universe is taking care of that. I just have to be me, just do me. That's all I need to do.
Yes.
And I will align with all of those who align with me being me. And that's the real beauty of it. So again, I just want to invite everyone to please join us in our workshop. It is fantastic, and we, you know, are going to be there live. We're happy to discuss any of your issues, give you coaching, and of course, inspire and support you every step along the way.
And
So thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah.
I've put the link again in the chat. Please take a look. And again, it's over $400 worth of
bonuses,
programs, and you get the live workshop with, you know, which it's incredible. Yeah. Give yourself the opportunity to experience what we're all about there. So thank you, Amy.
Thank you. And with that, we will see you hopefully on the workshop. If not, then we'll see you the third Thursday in November.
That's
and,
right.
Just a heads up, December is our grief summit also. So
right.
I would like to get some guests on there actually.
Okay.
So we can really dive deep into into supporting people with grief at this moment.
So we'll see you either for the workshop or next month, and actually hopefully both. Yeah, let's do this together. We're in it together. We might as well do it together, right?
Yes.
So much love to you. So many blessings. Thank you
Right.
so very much.
Thanks, ladies. I think I'm in.
Okay,
Ah,
great. Great,
fantastic.
Art.
We're so happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. Okay, we'll see you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Let's see here. I need to stop everything. Stop the recording. And YouTube needs to come on.